Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Within the projects to develop scientific innovations in the Sultanate schools, a workshop is organized to employ electronics in scientific projects in the governorate of Al-Buremi. At least 45 civilians are killed when aircraft bombed a northern Syrian city controlled by Daesh. And thousands of shoppers in the UK queue up in the cold, hoping for big discounts as stores launch their Boxing Day sales. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in details. Within the projects to develop scientific innovations in the Sultanate schools, the Directorate General of Education in the Governorate of Al-Buremi organized a workshop to employ electronics in scientific projects. It witnessed a participation from a number of school teachers and students from the Governorate. The three-day workshop included various scientific experiments as well as some students' creations in this field. It also included an electronics laboratory that has all the necessary equipment and tools for innovators. The participants expressed that such workshops are very beneficial for those interested in this field. The Minister of Education is very keen about scientific innovations so as to further encourage students and teachers to exert more efforts in such fields. Oman oil February delivery today reached $56 and 71 cents per barrel, registering a decrease by $1.39 compared to Wednesday, where it was $58.10. It is worth mentioning that Oman oil average price January delivery of 2015 about $78.24 per barrel. At least 45 civilians were killed and some 175 wounded when aircraft bombed a northern Syrian city controlled by Daesh state as Syrian government stepped up air raids. Residents and a monitoring group said helicopters and war planes dropped barrel bombs, steel drums full of shrapnel and explosive on residential and industrial areas in the city of Al-Bab and neighboring Qabasin, northeast of Aleppo, on the last night and overnight. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said at least 110 civilians had been killed in more than 470 air strikes on rebel-held areas in Syria in the last 72 hours, including towns in insurgents-held eastern suburbs of the capital, Damascus. The Israeli Supreme Court ordered to demolish the random settlements of Amona in the occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, Israeli authorities gave final approval to the construction of 380 new settlers' homes in two areas of annexed East Jerusalem. A local source said that the Municipal Commission has given construction permits for 307 homes in Ramot and 73 in Har Homa. Despite repeated warnings from Washington that it is fueling tensions, Israel has approved a series of plans for new settlers' homes in eastern Jerusalem in recent months. Israel describes those two urban settlements as Jerusalem neighborhoods. Kiev and pro-Russian separatists will exchange hundreds of prisoners soon, an aide to the head of Ukraine's SBU State Security Services said today. As the military reported a slight increase in rebel attacks, the agreement to swap 125 Ukrainian servicemen for 225 rebels held by Kiev followed peace talks between envoys of Ukraine, Russia, the separatist and the European Security Agency OSCE on Wednesday. Exchanging prisoners is one of the criteria of the 12-point peace protocol, which also includes a ceasefire agreed by Kiev and rebels in September. But most of the plan has not yet been implemented due to repeated violations of the ceasefire and because separatists defied Kiev by holding leadership elections. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and still to come in our news bulletin. 10 years on, the families grieve on the tsunami victims. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Cultural and traditional activities were held in the Wilaya of Khasab in the governorate of Musandam to mark the Global Day for the Disabled. Organizers of the activities are seeking to showcase needs of the disabled and how to engage them in the society, as well as to pay attention of their needs and take care of them. A small exhibition was held to display simple products and crafts made by the disabled. In the governorate of Al-Zahira in the Niyaba of Al-Hamra Duru' in the Wilaya of Ibri, the fourth stop of camel races were concluded in continuation of the 2014 program organized by the Omani Camel Race Federation. It witnessed a big competition among the participants. It was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Saeed Al-Kalbani, Minister of Social Development. It came to preserve the Omani heritage and to encourage the camels owners. The next stop will be in the Wilaya of Adam on the 10th of January. At the end, the chief guest honored the toppers. In Yarumal, a village in the northern Colombia, Alzheimer's has ravaged a disproportionately large number of families. A genetic curse that may pave the way for groundbreaking research on how to treat the disease that claims a new victim every 4 seconds. Here is a report.
John, 49, worked as a night watchman when his attention began to falter. He started to leave doors open and forget to lock up. He lost his job. He suffers from Alzheimer's, which, due to a genetic mutation, affects a disproportionately high number of people in this village in northern Colombia.
He goes to bed but doesn't get up. He doesn't recognize us, and it's very hard for us to know that he sees us as strangers, and he's no longer the same person. He was a happy man before, but not anymore.
His daughter is worried that she too will follow the same slow downward spiral. Children of Alzheimer's sufferers here in Yarumal have a 50% chance of developing the disease. Unlike in other parts of the world where the illness mostly affects people aged 60 or older, here the condition can emerge from the age of 40 or even earlier. It's a detail that has not gone unnoticed by the neurologist Francisco Lopera, who has spent 30 years studying the local population.
These families are living a very serious tragedy, as some of the relatives suffer from Alzheimer's at the same time. And even worse, there have been cases where the mother and daughter were both struck by the condition.
In recent months, Lopera has been testing a drug on people who are still healthy but carry the defective gene. The United States National Institute of Health and a subsidiary of the Swiss pharmaceutical Roche are funding the $100 million project. The medication is designed to destroy the protein that attacks the cerebral tissue before it can cause any damage. This treatment was developed thanks to a highly unusual brain bank. This collection of organs donated by the local population have proved essential for scientific research.
None of this would exist without the families. We would never have discovered the mutation, nor collected the first sample, nor developed a neurobank like this one.
Alzheimer's affects 36 million people throughout the world, roughly the population of Canada. And this number could double in the coming decades if no treatment is found. The results of the Yarumal experiment are expected for 2020, and the hope is it could present a breakthrough in curing the deadly disease.
Thousands of shoppers in the UK queued up in the cold, hoping for big discounts as stores launched their Boxing Day sales. In London, some people camped outside shops hours ahead of opening times to be the first in line. At Selfridges, a chain of high-end department stores, a large crowd rushed inside the building as soon as the doors were opened. Some people ran towards the elevators, hoping to get as many discounts as possible. Similar crowds were also seen in shopping centres in Manchester. Boxing Day is one of the busiest days for retailers in the UK. 10 years after the tsunami which killed more than 200,000 people in Southeast Asia, families across the world are still coming to terms with their loss. More details in the following report.
Martine preciously guards these last memories of her son. They're the personal items Carl left behind after he and his girlfriend Eve were killed in Thailand's Boxing Day tsunami in 2004.
On the 26th of December, I received a call at 11 o'clock in the morning from a colleague who told me, "Turn on the TV, there's a tidal wave. It seems to be in Thailand where your son is." And the moment I turned on the TV, there was a wave that crashed across the screen.
The tsunami claimed the lives of over 220,000 people. The scale of the destruction meant an agonizing wait for relatives like Martine. Confirmation of Carl's death came only several months later, when she received the watch he'd been wearing that day.
This was very, very difficult, because it meant that the watch was on Carl's body, so it had been removed at an identification centre in Phuket.
Martine doesn't know much about her son's last moments. She's found out that when Carl and Eve registered at their hotel, their room wasn't ready, so they left, probably for the beach.
10 years on, I continue to search for clues, through stories, images, photos, and often new videos.
That's why Violaine Patricia, a survivor of the tsunami along with her 2 children, has set up an association in France to help victims' families come to terms with their ordeal.
Today there's a reactivation of these traumas, of these injuries and suffering from this lack of answers. We receive a lot of calls from people that are not necessarily new, but today, on this symbolic 10-year anniversary, they call because they're not doing well. They need to talk things over.
It will be a difficult Christmas for Martine, but while the grief won't go away, supports from other tsunami survivors and relatives can help lessen the pain left by this most devastating of tragedies.
And now for the general weather forecast. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning along the governorates of Al-Buraymi, Al-Dhahira, Al-Wusta and Dhufar. Winds will be northwesterly light to moderate. Seas will be moderate with a maximum wave height of 2 meters. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and now before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Within the projects to develop scientific innovations in the Sultanate schools, a workshop is organized to employ electronics in scientific projects in the governorate of Al-Buraymi. At least 45 civilians are killed when aircraft bombed a northern Syrian city controlled by Daesh. And thousands of shoppers in the UK queue up in the cold hoping for big discounts as stores launched their Boxing Day sales. And with that, we come to an end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.